Okay, so how we first met was I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I just kind of joined the Air Force ROTC on a whim, and they told me that they would pay for my entire university, all my bills, if I majored in Japanese. So I majored in Japanese, and then I really wanted to study abroad. At that time, I was mentally prepared when I came to Japan to just focus on studying the language because I was really into my Air Force stuff, and I just wanted to do like a really good job. Like when you do the officer track, it's so competitive. You basically have to be the best person ever at everything. So I was really set on just studying. And then when I got here, the very first day, that was ruined thanks to June, because I met June like the very first day, and then all of my plans just crumbled.
How are they related?
So,
you could still study hard.
And then when I got to the international dorm, that's when June met me at the front door because he was going to be my RA, my resident assistant.
Basically, she came study abroad at my university, and that's how we met.
Yeah, and so June met me at the door, and then he showed me around the dorm where I stayed, and like he showed me how to do my mailbox and make my bed and everything there. The very first time I saw June, like literally, he just looked like one of those manga characters from like a shoujo manga. And I was like, oh man, that guy's gonna be a douche because he's really, he looks really cool. June was literally the first person that I've ever seen where I just saw him and I was like, he's attractive, wow. But I thought he would be a douche. He acted like he was really cool, and I thought he was so attractive. I was like, I'm sure he's got like 3 girlfriends. And like,
what?
And I was like, oh god, this is rude. I can't do this. I came here to study. I can't like just get attracted to the first guy I see. What is that? Yeah. But I didn't want to waste my time on like a pointless crush.
Douchebag.
Yeah, I'm a douchebag that would never go anywhere and that would just like ruin my studies. So I was determined not to like June. I was like, there's no, I'm not going to get into any of this. I'm just going to not acknowledge anything and focus on my studies. And that lasted about 2 weeks.
It was definitely like memorable, because like you came in by yourself, and like you have this like radiant red hair that was really noticeable, and like I think that was my first time for me to see people with red hair in my life, because I grew up in Japan. I've never been outside of Japan really, so everyone has black hair. Like you're in a white coat on the day.
Was I?
Yes, you are. And like the contrast of your hair and your coat, you look like a model.
I did not look like a model.
And she walked like a model, like
I did not.
As they walk on like a runway.
False. Oh, okay.
Yeah. But then when I asked her, she was like, no, I'm not a model. I'm gonna be an officer. I'm in the Air Force. Like, what?
The very first night I got there was a big communal room with video games and like computers and all kinds of stuff, and that's where everyone was hanging out. And I was like, all right, I need to go like try to be social and get to know people and stuff. So I went and sat down in that room, and I was across the table from June and a few other students. And I don't remember how we got on the subject, but you asked me about food, and June ended up offering to make me a meal that day.
I was going to make dinner for new students anyway, and I invited other like bunch of new students, and you were one of them.
I was really surprised by that because I seriously thought he would be a total stuck-up dude, and I was like, he can cook, and like he made donuts one day just from scratch, like from nothing, just from ingredients, and then he like deep fried them into actual donuts too, and I was so impressed. I was like, oh my god, he made donuts.
Did you hear yourself?
Everything.
I made donuts out of ingredients. That's how you make stuff.
You know, okay, if I want a donut, I go to a store and I buy a donut. I don't actually make donuts. How many people actually make donuts? Come on. So very quickly, my initial impression that June was for sure going to be a douchebag just kind of like died off, and then he got better and better. Like, he can cook, he's so nice, he likes video games. I found out he was sporty, he played like baseball and stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like sporty guy too. And then by the end of 2 weeks, I was just done. I was just over it. I couldn't resist the fact that I thought like he was the best thing ever. I didn't know how to handle those feelings, and so I acted like a total idiot. Like, if we would be walking down the hallway and I would see Jun, like, my heart would start beating really, really quickly, and my face would immediately go red, like super, super red. I would just like blush everywhere. After a few steps of seeing Jun, I just like put my head down and I would just run past him. And then after, I would get like a couple of steps behind him, and then he would be like, Neishiru, and I'd be like, oh, he wants to talk to me, and I would like be like, like turning around. It was so bad, you guys. I was so awkward. And he would say things like, he would offer to let me use his bicycle. So he let one other person borrow his bicycle key, a guy, and then he let me borrow his bicycle. And I was like, I'm the only girl he let borrow his bicycle. Does this mean something? It's like, why did he pick me? Does this mean anything? Does he like me? But he made a meal for me.
It was because you told me that you're going to Size Zero every single day to eat pizza. And I was like,
pizza.
maybe she won't be able to survive like this.
Okay, the whole first month I was there, we didn't have any classes. So we were just hanging out for a whole month. So Jun would be there, and then I would be there, and like I would want to be close to Jun, so I wouldn't leave until Jun left. And because Jun was the RA, and he was like, he had to make sure students were okay and like they all got to bed okay and everything, he would stay up until everyone went to bed. But I didn't want to go to bed until Jun left, and so we were the last two people who stayed up to talk a lot. So I had all these like secret plans to get Jun to like me. I was like, I'm gonna stay up as late as he's up, and then I would be like, I'm gonna go exercise, I'm gonna go for a run, but I'm gonna go stretch somewhere where Jun could see me. Maybe he'll be impressed that I exercise and stuff. He was supposed to speak in Japanese to us because we were all there to like study Japanese, and my Japanese was so bad. I would use that as an excuse to talk to Jun. I'd be like, Jun, I'm practicing my Japanese. Can you help me practice my Japanese? About like a month past of this, I had been doing my really horrible Rachel attempts at getting Jun's attention. Other people like Jun as well, because how can you not? And so one day I got an email from my detachment, and they told me that I ended up getting my #1 job choice. And I was super, super excited. And so I sent Jun an email on our phones, and like, I was so nervous. I think that was only like a second time I'd ever texted him, and I was like shaking while I was writing it, but I was just trying to like come up with like an excuse to talk to him. So I was like, I told him I got my job choice, and then I just like hovered over the send button for like minutes. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, and I like hit send, and then Jun eventually responded, and he was like, oh, that's cool, why don't you come talk to me about it or something. His room was one away from my room, and so I went over to talk to Jun, and we ended up staying up until like 4 a.m. talking because I didn't want to leave unless he was going to be like, I need to go to sleep. So I just kept trying to come up with other things to talk about. You know, there are girls here who like you, and people say you would make a good couple with like this other girl. Are you interested in her? Like, is there anyone you're interested in dating and stuff? And I would ask him this stuff, and he'd be like, I don't know. Eventually, I think I was able to get him to say that he was like interested in someone, but not the girls that I was talking about. So I was like, oh, who are you interested in then? What would you say if I said I liked you? And I was like, okay, come on, you're not gonna, that's like such a non-answer. My heart was beating out of my chest. My face was so red. So I was like, is that a real question? And then Jun was like, he just kind of nodded about it. So, and then I said, 私も Jun-san が好きです. And then Jun gave me a big hug. So we had to keep our relationship secret. And so like I couldn't tell anyone else, which was really awkward because I would like sit around June all the time because I would want to be close to him, and then eventually people would be like, Rachel's like really stalking June. She follows him everywhere. And I was like, I felt so bad. It was really awkward for both of us.
So that's how we met. She came study abroad at my university. I met her, and ever since then we just been together.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was RA, and I will still be Rachel's assistant. So I will be RA forever. That's the end of the story.